He has helped countless people doubt, sometimes for the first time, their deeply held faith-based beliefs, and sometimes totally turn around and discard those beliefs that are illogical and unfounded. And it's just, they're really great to watch. Each conversation is different than the other. I binge them like crazy. At first I was binging them all at normal speed, but now I can watch them twice as fast and double speed all the way through. I've probably watched 30 in the last week so far.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, a whole bunch of them.
Thanks for doing that.
My favorite being, do you remember his name? He had a beard. It was out in a square where other people were doing religious stuff. He came up to you. There was a little guy that he would keep turning to like make his point. Like, see how he doesn't want to talk about Jesus?
Okay, yeah, I was thinking you were talking about Kyle, the Chi Alpha preacher, but no, that's Caleb.
Caleb, okay.
Yeah, and there was a young boy with him named Zach. And he
Zach,
was,
I remember.
Not only was he teaching me the wonderful news of Jesus, but he was also instructing his friend Zach, the little kid next to him, on how to do it. Yeah,
I thought
that's
that
funny,
was just a random kid.
That video tends to come up when you search for street epistemology, which is a little unfortunate. It gets a lot of views, but it's not my best example. I mean, yeah.
It definitely shows off to me the difference in style. I thought it was really good. Don't get me wrong. But I, as far as my style, as far as when I'm engaging in a conversation, I mentioned this to you yesterday when the guy goes, evolution says a bird can give birth to a chicken and a chicken to a dinosaur. And in my head, that's all I would have wanted to go after. But because you were having a discussion not about the beliefs themselves, but how he got to them, obviously you didn't let it. And mine I would have just laser focused on that stupid statement.
Yes. And people watch that and they're like, why didn't Anthony point out that evolution is really true? And that's just, he's got a completely misunderstood. That's not the point of these conversations. And early on, when there weren't any other SE examples, I was getting excoriated by the atheists that were watching. Some people understood it, but many were like, what are you doing? Why are you letting him get away with this? You should be crushing him. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm trying something different. And it's called street epistemology. And it was written by this guy named Boghossian. And I'm trying something a little bit different here. Yeah. So, but I think we're kind of past that. I think many people in the atheist community now I think they've at least heard of street epistemology. Maybe they've watched a couple of examples. Right. And it doesn't seem like it has the negative stigma it had 5.5 years ago when people started going out and trying to do this.
I'm really surprised there was a stigma. I was shocked. I probably started watching. I remember actually I was in Lakewood, so that was 3 to 4 years ago now when I saw the first one, and I was like, yeah, this is so. The point I've always made to a lot of people is like there is a place for every kind of, and some of them I think are better, and some of them are, but Richard Dawkins and Sam Harris, for example, both really powerful people who have changed a lot of minds. Richard Dawkins was the kind who could change my mind because I needed someone to say, your ideas are stupid and you never even realized it before I needed that before my guard could come down. I needed to hear that was even possible. But then you have Sam Harris, who I always say, Sam Harris has brilliant thoughts in his books and stuff, but I cannot listen to him talk without falling asleep. His voice is a lullaby.
Well, he's coming out with a meditation app, I think. So maybe if he narrates it or something, it's probably perfect for that.
I'm going to be drooling when I meditate.
Sometimes I have to really focus on it. I try to catch most of his podcasts. These people have different styles. They tend to appeal to different people at different stages in the process. I think that if you ran into a Richard Dawkins and he was being as direct and blunt as he was when you were observing it, it's quite possible that you may have not been as moved or possibly even become more defensive by that approach. And that's where the street epistemology things comes in. It's street epistemology, or SE, is so good for the one-on-one conversations when these are people that you know, or it's a stranger on the street, and you value the relationship and you want to help them reflect on their belief. Right. And maybe it's not even in your nature to be aggressive. And so it's another option for atheists to consider.
To me, it taught me. So one thing that's interesting, and we'll get on to the interview here in a moment, but already I like this topic so much. One thing that I found was interesting with me that I first saw happen with Matt Dillahunty, and you can claim credit for this or not. I don't know for a fact that this is you, but I saw over the last few years, Matt went from a more aggressive debate style where he's saying, no, this is how this is, this is how this is, that was a little more Dawkins-esque, if you will. And he started asking more questions. In fact, that whole thing, I don't think he's been saying it as long as, I mean, I've watched back in the archive, but I couldn't tell you the exact time. But when I hear him go, when a person says faith, he still goes a little aggressive with it, and I did too last night. But when a person says faith, he goes, okay, with faith, so-and-so can believe this and this, right? They agree, and he goes, so faith is not a good pathway to truth. And to me, it was like, oh, I think it happened to him too. His debate style came down a little bit of like, you just mentioned the way you came to this belief. Let's observe that, and now give me something outside of that.
I kind of have a funny story about that. I talked about this at NanoCon in Nashville about 4 months ago. I was on the stage with Matt, and we were talking about our different styles. And it must have been 4 years ago. We talked about this on the stage, and they haven't released the video of it yet. I don't know if they ever will, so I'll mention it here just in case it doesn't come out. But I remember 4 years ago going to watch the Atheist Experience live. I think I was even there with one of my kids. And Matt came in, and he said, how do you describe faith in one word? He just walked in and asked the audience of like 10 people this. And before I can raise my hand and say unreliable, he said gullible. So we talked about that a little bit on the stage in Nashville.
Interesting.
And it is interesting because as we were talking, he was explaining that he sees faith as a methodology, that it is an epistemology. It's a way that people are using. It's a way that people are coming to conclude that certain things are true. Right. So yeah, I think he shifted. Now, yeah, I don't know if that's a result of the work that I've been doing or the videos that have been coming out or just the general zeitgeist of the atheist community is moving in this particular direction. I don't really know
I'm not trying to blow too much smoke here, but honestly, I've seen because I've seen your conversations with other people, and I think it's adjusted a lot of people. So while with my conversations, I really enjoyed experimenting, and maybe next time I'll experiment and I'll go 85% instead of 80, I definitely still like my style, especially when it works, but I like it now after that influence has come in and changed it and looked for these key words. Because, I mean, with street epistemology, it seems like you are saying, let's get past the things that aren't actually your epistemology. Let's get to it. And let's get to the actual way, because faith couldn't have been it. What's the thing after faith? What's the thing after that? And then if you're left with that, you actually need to observe your belief. So we talked about this yesterday, but the viewers obviously don't know. I did an interview, or rather a discussion with a theist who is somebody I knew who had made this post on Facebook about, basically the gist was, I'm not going to date you unless you're a man of God. Which, being the very full of myself person I am, while I have no desire to date this person, was just upset at the idea, like, I am a very good person, I'm compassionate, I'm loving, I'm patient, and I don't have a chance at you because of this belief system. So then I was like, all right, I want to know what that belief system is, and I want to know why. And so you would give me the advice to stick to the belief, and I did for the first hour and a half. And then we brought it back to it at the end.
That's almost too long, honestly. Yeah. You could, okay, so you said a lot of stuff there. Let me just really quickly touch on this. You're right. Like we are moderately interested in what the person believes and the reasons why, but it's the method that they're using to conclude that these things are true that we're interested in, the epistemology or the way that people are coming to this.
Right.
Coming to high degrees of confidence. Yeah. So all the other stuff is noise, really.
Yeah.
And we spend so much time arguing about what the person believes, and we spend so much time arguing about the reasons that people are giving that are not necessarily the reasons why.
Right.
So this is all about peeling back, drilling down. I don't know where I was going to go after that. But, the conversation that you had, I think 10, 15 minutes is usually pretty adequate to examine the foundation of a person's belief.
Right.
Anything more than that, you almost get, sometimes you don't know where to go, and then you just find yourself talking about their doctrine and what they believe again. And it's,
my problem is I'm really good at making slightly relevant tangent rabbit holes. So
can I get back to one thing that you were talking about? You were mentioning how it appears that maybe SE seems to be catching on in the community. And I do think that there might be something to that. It does seem like it's gaining momentum. People are understanding it. They're using it more. They're seeing the benefits of it.
Right.
We're seeing stories of people who encountered somebody using this method and abandoning a belief.
Right.
I was invited to give a talk to American atheists. I ended up calling it Street Epistemology, a Turning Point for Atheism, because I really do think that this is big.
Right, right, yeah.
And it's not just for atheists either. I hope people understand that. This isn't like just something that we can just hold on to, and I want everyone to learn this thing.
No, this needs to be, and so I've talked about for years that in school you should be taught all about logical fallacies and how to debate for both sides and how the right ways to learn and the right ways to investigate. And that's not things we teach children in schools. And to me, that's all basically summarized by the street epistemology. I think even when we say that it's growing in the community, I don't think even, I think it is directly, and obviously the channel's always growing and more people are watching, but I think even more than that, on a much larger scale, people don't even realize that as a result of this, now the way they discuss and now the way they debate, unless they're one of just those assholes on Reddit who just needs to yell at everybody and call everybody.
You know what's funny though is I'll stumble across a video where an atheist is berating a street preacher, and if you scroll down to the comments, people are telling that guy like, hey, have you heard of street epistemology? Would you give it a try? And he's like, stop telling me about that method. Like, I don't even have to really promote this thing almost anymore, because I think there's enough momentum and it's rolling. You know, I think we're going good now.
The funny thing with that is too, like I remember as a Mormon, I used to say, you'd meet somebody who just like really believed in lots of conspiracies or something silly, and I'd be like, you know, the gospel is for everybody, but maybe not that guy, and that would be my joke. And now I kind of feel like atheism, it's like I want everyone to let go of religion if it's not true, but there's certainly an order of which people I want to be talking first, which ones I want to be coming first, because whenever I hear a person who's like, yeah, I'm an atheist, I can't believe how stupid these people are. Anyway, I got to go charge my crystals to make sure that I can sleep tonight. And it's like,
bingo. That's the thing. Like just because you gave up a God belief doesn't mean that you did so for good reasons. And it certainly doesn't mean that you're still not harboring a faulty method for coming to other conclusions.
Sure.
Yeah. So that's why this tool is so great. And you can use it for other stuff besides just the God claim.